Welcome to the Prescott Lab podcast, not just theory, practical science for everyone. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott, a physician and integrative medicine researcher at the Ravenshade Institute for Human Health. And today, we're stepping into a quiet corner of men's health that rarely gets the attention it deserves until something fades, until the morning spark is gone, until confidence starts slipping through the cracks. But what if I told you? It's not just aging. What if the very thing you thought was lost, your vitality, your connection, your strength, could be restored, not through surgery or prescriptions, but through something ancient, something warm, something already sitting in your home? Now, before we dive in, let me ask you for one simple favor. If you haven't subscribed yet, take a second and do that now. And while you're here, give this video a thumbs up, not for me, but for yourself. Because maybe, just maybe, the men who like this podcast, they've been known to sleep deeper, walk taller, and let's just say, wake up with a little more optimism. Type a comment too, share your age, your story, or just type 1 if this speaks to you. You never know, that one moment of connection might inspire someone else to start healing too. So here's my wish for you right now. May your blood flow stronger, your mornings feel lighter, and your sense of self return one breath, one touch, one small decision at a time. Let's begin. 1. Why erections fade after 60 and why it's not your fault. Let me tell you about Raymond. He was 66, a retired electrician with hands tough from a lifetime of honest work. He sat in front of me, eyes steady, voice quiet. "Doc, it's not like I don't want to, I do, but nothing's happening. My labs are clean, I eat well. But it's like that part of me just disappeared." If that feels familiar, if you've wondered the same, let me say this clearly. It's not in your head, and it's not just age. After 60, something deeper begins to change, not your desire, but your circulation. The smallest vessels in your body, the microvessels that carry blood to your pelvis, your manhood, your sense of aliveness, they slowly narrow. Harden, fade, no warning, no pain, just a quiet drying up of flow. And here's what most men never get told. Your heart can be fine, your testosterone might check out, but if blood can't reach where it needs to go, nothing happens. Doctors blame aging, I don't. Because I've seen too many men in their 70s, even 80s, who still have the drive. What they lost wasn't manhood, it was flow. And the beautiful part, flow can be restored. The real tragedy is no one ever showed you how. Sitting for years, stress hormones spiking, processed foods clogging your vessels, it adds up. And without realizing it, that vibrant part of your body grows cold, quiet, disconnected. But listen closely, you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed, you need to be reawakened. And that starts with something as simple as a touch, a breath, and an oil that's been hiding in plain sight. We'll talk about that next. But before we go there, let me ask you. If this speaks to you, leave a comment, share your age, your story, or just type yes. Even a number, a single digit, that one tap might remind you you're still here, you still matter, and we're just getting started. 2. The deep healing power of castor oil. Castor oil. If you told me 30 years ago this humble, old-school oil would one day become one of the most powerful tools in my clinic, I might have laughed. Back then, we brushed it off, just something your grandmother used for constipation. But time humbles even the most skeptical doctors. Because when I started really listening to my older male patients, men who'd quietly lived through war, heartbreak, and factory floors, I kept hearing one thing. "I don't feel anything down there. Doc, it's like something went numb. My body's here, but I'm not in it anymore." And I realized what they needed wasn't a prescription. What they needed was reconnection. That's when castor oil came back into my hands, not as a remedy, but as a message. One the body hadn't heard in years. You see, castor oil penetrates. Not like lotion, not like massage oil. It travels deep into the tissue, where blood vessels hide, where nerves get quiet, where the lymph system often goes stagnant after decades of stress and stillness. That's where the real shutdown happens. And that's where this oil goes. I'll never forget Ernest, 74, a retired jazz musician. He said, "Doc, I've still got rhythm in my head, but not in my body." We didn't use pills, we used warmth, castor oil, and time. He applied it 3 nights a week, lower belly, inner thighs, slow circular motions. 2 weeks later, he came back with the same gait, same hat, same soft-spoken tone, but something in his eyes had returned. "I don't know what you did," he said, "but something woke up." And that's it. When blood returns, when lymph begins to move, sensation follows. Not in a flash, but like a slow melody finding its way home. Still, castor oil doesn't just revive blood flow. It reactivates the lymphatic system, your body's drainage network, because toxins accumulate with age, in the pelvis especially. And once they start clearing out, tissues soften, nerves respond, and a man feels present again, not just functioning but alive. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever tried castor oil this way? Or is this the first time you're even hearing it used beyond your grandmother's cupboard? If you're up for it, leave a comment below. Say "first time" or "I've tried it." I read everyone's. But more than that, another man out there might read your words and realize he's not the only one. Because what's next? The oil that softens hardened vessels, lifts inflammation, and restores what time tried to close is where the story deepens. We're heading there next. 3. Pine essential oil, the forgotten softener of stagnant tissues. There's a reason so many older men say they feel tight down there. Not just stiff in the joints, but rigid in places no one wants to admit. It's not just a metaphor. It's literal. The tissue itself loses its give, its suppleness, its willingness to receive blood. And that's where the second oil comes in. Pine essential oil. The first time I opened a bottle of it in my clinic, I didn't expect much. It smelled like a hike through the woods, clean, sharp, grounding, familiar. But I'll be honest with you, I was skeptical. That scent took me back to childhood hikes with my father. It reminded me of old cabins, flannel shirts, and something wild in the air. It didn't scream healing. But the body knew something I didn't. You see, pine oil is mildly alkaline, which means it helps soften the acidic, hardened tissue that builds up in the pelvic region over decades of poor posture, shallow breathing, and chronic stress. And when paired with castor oil, which carries it deep into those tissues, the result isn't just warming, it's transformative. Let me tell you about Joseph. He was 68, a former bus driver with a sharp wit and tired eyes. He tried everything: pills, pelvic floor exercises, even testosterone creams, but nothing reached the root. We tried something different. A simple blend: castor oil and pine oil, applied low and slow 3 times a week. He didn't say much at first, but one morning after about 2 weeks he left a voicemail. He said, "Doc, I felt heat, not outside, inside, like something alive in me opened up again." That heat he felt, that's not just placebo, that's flow, that's tissue waking up, vessels relaxing, blood returning. Because here's the secret: as we age, softness is strength. Tight, hardened tissues don't carry life, they block it. And pine oil, used the right way, gently reverses that, softens what's been clenched for years, not with force but with respect. Now you might be wondering, where do you apply it? How do you guide that warmth so it doesn't just sit on the skin but gets to the places that matter? And that's exactly what we're about to explore. Because when it comes to restoring manhood, how you touch, where you press, and what you awaken beneath the surface changes everything. Well, that's next. 4. How to apply the blend for maximum blood flow. Here's where the science meets the sacred, because it's one thing to know about oils. To hear words like microcirculation, alkalinity, and tissue softening. But it's another thing entirely to place your hands on your own body, with purpose, with patience, with something you haven't felt in a while: presence. I always tell my patients, this isn't about rubbing oil on your skin like it's lotion. This is about sending a signal to the deeper parts of you that may have been ignored for decades. Parts that have gone silent, disconnected, shut down, and I'll be honest, most men struggle with this, not because it's hard, but because it asks for stillness. And stillness can be more confronting than pain, but this is where the change begins. Here's how you do it. Start by mixing 1 teaspoon of organic castor oil with 2 to 3 drops of pure pine essential oil. That's your blend. Warm it gently, not hot, just enough to awaken its life. Find a quiet space. Sit or lie down in a way that lets your belly breathe. Then begin to apply the blend to 3 key areas. 1. Lower abdomen right below the navels. 2. Inner thighs both sides. 3. The perineum, the soft area between your scrotum and anus. Only if you feel comfortable. Use slow circular motions. No pressure, no rush, you're not fixing. You're inviting. Think of it like knocking on a door that hasn't opened in years. Do this for 3-5 minutes. Breathe. Let your mind stay connected to what your hands are doing. Then place a warm towel over the area and simply rest for 10-15 minutes. This is when the oils sink deeper. This is when the body starts to respond. Some men report a tingling, others a gentle heat. But most feel something more powerful, a quiet sense of reconnection. And here's what I'll tell you after decades in this work, that first spark, even if it's small, is real. And it matters. Because when your body starts listening again, healing isn't far behind. But don't stop there. Because the moment your tissues begin to open, you have a unique window, a chance to activate ancient pressure points that awaken circulation, calm the heart, and restore something even deeper than sensation. Vitality. And we're stepping into that world next. 5. Acupressure, reawakening the brain-body circuit. Let me share something most physicians overlook. Healing rarely begins in just the body. It begins in the place between where breath meets blood, where thought meets touch, at the intersection we call the nervous system. And that's exactly where acupressure comes in. It may look simple, a press of the finger here, a breath there, but it opens deep doors. Not just to circulation, but to memory, to instinct. To that quiet knowing inside your body that says, I remember how to feel. Not long ago, 2 viewers left comments that caught my eye. One said, Doc, I'm doing the oil routine. It helps, but it fades too fast. What's next? Another wrote, is there something to help my body respond again without relying on pills? They were both asking the same thing, not just how to fix, but how to return to presence, to connection, to a body that listens. That's what these pressure points do. They reawaken what time and tension made distant. Here are 3 I teach often. 1. Heart 7 at the wrist crease pinky side. Calms the nervous system. Brings the body out of stress and into safety. 2. Spleen 12 where the inner thigh meets the pelvis. Right arrow boosts pelvic circulation, gently restores flow where it's long been absent. 3. Liver 3 between the big toe and second toe. Right arrow balances hormones, relieves tension, and grounds emotion, especially shame. Edward, 79, a retired woodworker, started using these points with his oil routine. 2 weeks in, he looked at me and said, Doc, I don't just feel better, I feel like I came back to myself. And that's the shift we're after, not just blood returning, but identity. Now I'd love to know, have you tried any of these pressure points before? Or is this new to you? Leave a comment, share your age, or just type trying it. You never know, your words might help another man say, maybe it's not too late for me either. But don't stop here. Because once the tissues are open, the nerves awakened, there's a golden window, a chance to feed your body the very thing that locks in the results. And most men never hear about that part. Let's change that in the next section. 6. What to eat after the ritual, lock in the results. There's a moment right after the oils sink in, the pressure points are pressed, and your body feels warmer, softer, more awake, that most men miss completely. And it's a shame. Because physiologically, it's a golden window. A time when your blood vessels are open, your tissues are receptive, and your system is quietly asking, what comes next? Feed it the wrong thing, and you quietly shut the door you just opened. But feed it the right way, you lock the healing in place. You tell your body, yes, this is the new rhythm now. Let me tell you about Bill, 72, a retired firefighter. Strong hands, a firm handshake, and a stubborn streak that made him a hero in emergencies, but reluctant to change his routine. He followed the oil protocol with military precision. But a few weeks in, he looked at me and said, Doc, it helps, but not as much as I thought. So I asked him, what are you eating right after the routine? He paused, then chuckled. Usually sausage and white bread, maybe a soda if I'm feeling fancy. Ah, comfort food, yes, but also a circulation killer, salt-heavy, sugar-loaded, packed with inflammatory oils. The exact thing that tightens vessels, stiffens tissues, and undoes the good you just created. We didn't flip his diet upside down. We made small strategic shifts. A glass of beet juice to boost nitric oxide and widen blood vessels. Half an avocado right arrow for healthy fats that stabilize hormones. Steamed spinach with garlic and olive oil to relax arteries and feed the blood. 1 square of dark chocolate, 85% cacao. Right arrow to enhance pelvic circulation and pleasure chemistry. 1 week later, he came back glowing. I feel lighter, sharper, and mornings feel different, he said with a smile that didn't need explaining. So here's the takeaway: after you finish the ritual, don't reach for junk, reach for nourishment. Because your body is like soil after rain, open, fertile, ready. What you put in it next will either grow something strong or wash the seed away. And while we're here, I'd love to know what you've tried. Have you experimented with post-routine foods, or are you starting from scratch? Drop a comment, share one thing you'll try, or ask what combinations might work best for you. Because the oils, the pressure, the food, they all work together. But there's one last piece that holds it all in place. The one thing that determines whether this change lasts or fades, and it's not a food or a technique, it's deeper, it's how you see yourself. We'll talk about that next. 7. The mindset shift from shame to strength. I've worked with hundreds of men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, and what weighs them down the most isn't just poor blood flow. It's something quieter, heavier, shame, not the loud kind, but the slow erosion of self, the feeling that manhood quietly slipped away when no one was looking. Leonard, 69, once told me, "I still look like me, but I don't feel like me." He had done the oils, changed his meals, pressed the points, but still something resisted. So I asked, "When was the last time you touched your body like it was worth saving?" He didn't answer, he didn't have to. That afternoon, something shifted, not in his labs, but in his posture. He walked taller, slower, like a man returning to himself. Because here's the truth: masculine vitality doesn't vanish, it waits. And the first step isn't physical, it's the choice to believe, I'm still here. You can follow every step in this ritual. But if deep down you still believe you're too far gone, your body will echo that belief. And if instead you say, I matter, this part of me matters, then healing becomes not just possible, it becomes inevitable. So now I'll ask you, not as your doctor, but as a man who's seen what's possible. Did any part of this speak to you? If so, type "I'm still here" in the comments. Or share your age, your story, your turning point. You might be the reason someone else decides not to give up tonight. And if you've been watching and forgot to subscribe, do it now. If this video helped you, give it a thumbs up. Share it with a friend who needs it. Because maybe, just maybe, that one click brings someone a little closer to hope. I wish you more than health. I wish you presence. A body that feels like home again. And the strength to return not to who you were, but to who you still are underneath it all. Leave your mark in the comments below. Ask a question. Say hi, or just say, I'm not done yet. And I'll see you fully in the next episode.